Go ahead.
It started there.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So I just want to make sure that people are okay with us recording session. If you do feel uncomfortable, please feel free to drop, because we will provide the recorded content afterwards. Before I welcome Ms. Glen Tulip here officially, Kaushal Bhai, would you like, yeah, namaste. And then Kaushal Bhai, would you like to make some public service announcements, please?
Sure. Thank you, Kiran. Most of my announcement is going to be irrelevant to the audience here, but hopefully someone listening to the recording or watching it might respond to it. So I'm representing SEBS North America, and I'm making two quick announcements. First of all, the SEBS North America's calendar for 2080 is out, and this time we are raising funds to cover the cost of the calendar and also generating funds to establish e-libraries in public and community schools of Nepal. Therefore, if you are in North America, US, Canada, Mexico, and want to book your copies, please feel free to do a tiny donation to the organization so that we can be successful in this endeavor. So that's my first announcement. I'm going to share the link and the text in the chat. Don't want to take too much time away from this wonderful gathering. The second announcement is about joining the executive committee of SEBS North America for 2023 and all the way through 2025. This is our election year, and we look forward to recruiting new executive committee members and office holders. So if this is something that interests anybody, feel free to reach out to me on my email or to our president, Budhanilkantha. I'll be sharing it on the chat as well. And it's a great service to the community, to the school, to our friends, and to our organization. And Kirandai, Bharatai, both of you are here. If you want to add a couple of words to invite people to join the executive committee, that would be great. That's all from me. Looking forward to the conversation. Back to you, Kirandai.
Yeah, thank you very much again. I'm sure during the conversation we'll know more about what Ms. Tulip has been doing, and is all volunteering. I mean, I just today alone, I just received a signed letter from President Joe Biden thanking me for my volunteers, the President's Bronze Award, and then for number of community hours that I donated in this country, I suppose, and gets recognized at the highest level as well. It is so vitally important for all of us to give back as much as we can to the community, wherever we are, wherever we can make this impact. So having said that, I also want to take this opportunity to real quick, I think Hemendra, I thought I saw Hemendra that maybe he might have dropped off, but Bharat, is there any other announcement that you'd like to state with regards to the upcoming reunion?
Yeah, quickly, thank you everyone for joining. It's great effort by SEBS North America, Kaushal, leading up from our team, and Kirandai, and welcome, Ms. Tulip, and thank you for all your work while we were kids at school. We have a lot of memories. We have a SEBS reunion, SEBS NA reunion coming up. We are planning for July, last weekend of July 29, in DC area. We're almost done finalizing our tasks for the reunion, so we'll be announcing within a couple of days. So I just wanted everybody to join the reunion and spread the word.
Okay, thank you very much. So, all right. So, Ms. Tulip, again, formally, namaste to you. Not only as an ex-teacher, but like we call Guru and Guru Ama, and for being the wonderful Guru Ama that you are, for the longest service to BNKS, and in particularly all of Nepal in the education sector as well. So I wanted to start off by asking you, what brought you to Nepal in the first place? How did you even hear about that country? And just out of curiosity, what brought you to Nepal?
Okay, when I was about 16, I read a book called The Mountain is Young, which was a fictional but based on fact account of a Chinese lady's visit to Nepal for the coronation of King Mahendra. And it really impressed me. I thought one of these days I'm going there, right? cut long story short, I became a British volunteer, a VSO, and I was in Bhutan. And I met a number of group leaders from an Australian trekking company. It was called Australian Himalayan Expeditions then, who brought groups to Bhutan. And I became quite friendly with some of them. And one particular, anyway, when I'd finished my time in Bhutan, she invited me to come to Nepal for a holiday. Well, I arrived in Nepal, and 3 days later, I was leading a trek.
Wow.
To Machkuchari base camp. And so began my lifelong love affair with Nepal. And that's what brought me to Nepal. I led treks, and then it became obvious that if I wanted to be legal and stay in the country, I had to get a proper job. So I did teach at St. Xavier's for a little while, but then I answered an ad to teach at Budhanilkantha, and the rest is history.
Absolutely. It just fascinates me every time I hear how the teachers end up coming to Budhanilkantha School. When I was visiting UK, I was visiting Mrs. Tyson after her husband, after Mr. Tyson passed away. Then I also went to Mr. Bennett. I found out from Mrs. Tyson's daughter that Mr. Bennett was not too far from where they were. And then I ended up meeting Mr. Bennett, and Mr. Bennett was telling all kinds of stories. I'd always asked him how these A-level, at that time, if you remember, we used to get A-level students who had just taken the exam in UK, but they used to either two of them, they used to come in pairs to Budhanilkantha, taking a gap year and teaching us swimming and the English lessons and like that. Then I found out at that time that a lot of those who came were actually from in a similar village that Mr. Tyson and Mr. Bennett were part of, because it was through word of mouth saying, hey, there's an opportunity out there in Nepal, who would like to go. And it just think that people and they just passed on from there, and that's how they ended up getting to school. Oh, one of my other questions to you is, your childhood seems so fascinating. When I read your bio, you're born in one country, then you moved to a different country, you did schooling in different country. Can you give us some time frame in terms of reference? Like you said, you're born in Japan, and then
I was born in Japan, yes.
Yeah. So what took you to Japan? Your family.
Sorry?
What took your family to Japan? How did you end up in Japan?
My father was a returned serviceman. He had been in a German prison camp for several German prison camps, because he kept escaping. And after the war, when he was back in Australia was starting its overseas. It was going to launch embassies overseas for the first time. Cut long story short, the only people who had this sort of overseas experience were returned servicemen. And my father did not want to go to Europe for obvious reasons. So he was sent to Japan as part of the first Australian diplomatic mission to Japan. So the only way my mother could go with him was as his secretary. And so she did, and she lived in a compound. They lived in a compound with other members of the delegation. And I was born in an American Army hospital in American-occupied Japan to Australian parents travelling on British passports, because Australia didn't issue its own passports till late in the 50s.
Yeah. Wow. That's
and when I was christened by an army chaplain, but I was nearly a year old when that happened. But in the meantime, my father took me to a Buddhist Lama. He wanted me to be blessed by a Buddhist Lama. And the Lama said, oh, she was born to the sound of temple bells. And all her life she will follow them. So, yeah, that's it.
Isn't that amazing how true it became for you? Wow. That's very fascinating. So your connection to Bhutan, did you, because as you know, even the connection of our own school, Budhanilkantha School, has some kind of connection to Bhutan, because at the time when Mr. John Tyson was teaching in Bhutan, he was a principal at a school before he came. First, he came and did the site selection of where Budhanilkantha was going to be, I think, among the alternative, because he was a geographer. Among the alternatives, he finally decided near the water source, near the mountain. It was closer to have it in the current location. So he was the first person who actually did that the site survey. He and Mrs. Tyson and a bunch of others came and did the site survey. Then for some reason he left, and because I think the project was going to take longer or something. So he ended up going to Bhutan to start a school in Bhutan. He was teaching there. I thought maybe your path have crossed then, but it looks like not.
No, it was before my time, but Mr. Tyson was there to start the first English-speaking school in Bhutan. Previously, the language of instruction had been Hindi because of their strong connection with India and and then the late king at the time wanted to bring Bhutan into the 20th century as it was then. And so Mr. Tyson was at Thimphu, I think it was Thimphu High School, I'm not sure, but it was certainly just before my time there. Yeah.
Okay. So then you came to Nepal to take the like you mentioned earlier, as a tour guide. You started teaching, and you said in St. Xavier's, and then what prompted you to join Budhanilkantha? Was it an ad in the paper that so? Because back then there was obviously no Facebook or none of that social media. You had to.
No, it was an ad in the paper, and I was interviewed by Mr. Tyson, and there I was. And I was in Dalagiri House, first of all, and I had a flat in Dalagiri House. And then I can't remember the exact time frame, but I moved to Makalu to be tutor to late Prince Nirajan.
Yeah.
And that's where I stayed for my time. Oh, no, I lived in Makalu, but I joined Gauri Shankar. Yeah.
Right.
I was tutor to the first group of girls.
For the first group, and we'll come back to that later. So what did you find fascinating about Budhanilkantha School when you first joined in? What
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been thinking about this. How would I approach it? Because I knew you'd ask me that question. Yeah. But the setting for, just let's go, the physical things, the setting, wonderful up there on the hill. Kathmandu was a slightly different place then, and it was out of town then. It was in the bush, and the students, wonderful. Oh, there is Hira Gurung. Hi, Hira. And the students, they were such a joy to teach, and whatever you did for them paid you back 1,000 times. As you know, I taught several hundred boys and teachers to swim in the pool. I was head of drama. Apart from my normal teaching duties. And of course, I was tutor to groups, but then I was tutor to the girls. So the students, now and the teachers, not just the foreign teachers, the wonderful Nepali teachers who took me in and made me part of the family. And I'm still part of that family because I'm in contact with people like Jana Tapa, Mrs. Jana Tapa, and Mrs. Hira Gurung, Mrs. Tapalia. It just, the connections have, if anything, grown stronger over the years. But I think Mr. Shrubsall, Mr. Robert Shrubsall. He was my first head of English. And then Martin and Jenny, and living on the compound was a great joy because it was a big family. It was a lovely big family. And from then on, what happened in Budhanilkantha and the way things were done in Budhanilkantha for me became the standard against which I measured every other school I've ever been in. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and a lot of teachers that I have spoken say it was not only that we taught at Budhanilkantha, but the Budhanilkantha taught us so much back. And even for the teacher, when I spoke with Mr. Bennett later ended up becoming the head of the, when UK was in European Union, he said he was actually the head of the European Union's high school quality control person who would go around, and he said he measured the quality based on the things that he learned in BNKS. He said that was the first time he said anything like the matrix, the thing that he said he devised everything for European Union because he used that rigor, the standard that was put in BNKS during his time. He said BNKS taught us a lot. It was not only the students who benefited from it, but it was us as the teachers who also tremendously got a lot out of it as well.
As I said, it's the standard against which I measured every other school I've ever been in and my own performance.
Yeah.
Because everything I did in Budhanilkantha was a joy to do. I worked hard and I put in long hours, but by seeing the results of that among the students and whatever, it told me what I was capable of. So that when I became head of English at Muhammad Ali Asman School in Yemen, it was the Budhanilkantha, if you like, the program that I implemented, the way of doing things. Yeah. And as I said, yeah, Budhanilkantha taught me a lot too. I'll have to, can excuse me 1 second, I'm coming, I'll be back.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, here I am back again. So yes, I agree with Mr. Bennett on that, very much so. Yeah,
and then so I know you are very intimately involved along with Hira ma'am and Jana Thapa ma'am when the first cohort of the girls joined in BNKS School back in 1990-93 time frame. So what was that experience like? Can you share some of the challenges that you went through? What was going on with the co-ed, the first cohort of the girls when they first came in Budhanilkantha, the famous 8, the most amazing 8 girls, 8 or 9, I think at the time we showed up. They were so amazing. How did you guys have shepherd them through?
Well, I regarded it as a huge challenge, and I wanted them to be open and honest with me about what was going on. They always were. And I think by my approach to them, which was more of a mentor, a friend, a mentor, rather than just a teacher, that I believe I helped them in that first year, because it wasn't easy for them. It was not easy. In their own batch, they were fine, they were fine, but some of the other batches they'd never been with girls since they'd been at Budhanilkantha School. So it was a learning curve for everybody, I think, right? I have a lovely picture here. I hope we can see it. It's the first sports day. We had girls, and there they are leading right. leading Gauri Shankar.
Yeah, I recognize Samjhanaka and then Sarina.
Yeah,
I think all of it was, yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
As I said, my house is full of this sort of thing, these sort of pictures. And I have another picture I'd like to show you.
Sure.
Mrs. Tupper's son, Ravi, was like a touchstone for me. Sometimes when I got a bit silly, he would just look at me like this. Right?
I
That
hope
was the
Ravi
Ravi.
sees that picture. Yes.
That was the Ravi Tupper look, as
Yep.
I called it, right? Who let me know that perhaps I should tone things down a bit, not be quite so silly.
Right.
But all I have of Budhanilkantha are happy memories, wonderful memories. The only thing that makes me sad now is how many of my colleagues and students we have lost over the years. Disease and perhaps old age and COVID, certainly, whatever. It's the only thing that makes me sad when I think about Budhanilkantha, and certainly this lovely young man, second
Yep.
from the right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
And
Thanks. Yeah.
right. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those memories and pictures. Again, feel free to share more as we continue to have conversation here. What was something that you wish Budhanilkantha had done? Like, what were some of the things that you wished Budhanilkantha would have considered, that you would have been proud of? I'm sure all of us have this dream saying, hey, I wish the school would have done this or done that. What were some of the things that you would have recommended for Budhanilkantha? Even in the most perfect scenario, one always has something that we could do better on. What would that be for you?
Well, I guess the only thing that I could think of, when we did wonderful things, the students did wonderful things in drama and social service. Perhaps going out, certainly they went out into the community, but I think a lot of other schools or educational institutions in Nepal, Kathmandu, really didn't know what happened in, what went on in Budhanilkantha, that there could have been, perhaps they could have had more connections with other schools to reassure people and parents that it wasn't just for the elite, that it was a very ordinary school in many ways for very ordinary students. But no, it was for gifted students, but for what Budhanilkantha was all about, rather than, being up there on the hill away from town and whatever. Perhaps we could have reached out more to other schools, other institutions. Yeah. Invite them to things, invite them to
Right.
Sports days and plays and competitions. Right.
Yeah, I believe some of that started happening later on as the teachers moved out to, I know, like Sridiva students used to come and watch the plays in Budhanilkantha. And I think when Mr. Mokhtan went out, I think he made an effort to bring their students for the school plays or something like that, I believe. But you're right. And I know in our own time, we were invited for a musical at Lincoln School. I remember, I think you, either Mr. Srafsal or you or somebody took us to watch the musical play in Lincoln School at that time. So I know there was some kind of connection with the Lincoln School, but wish we had more interaction with this J variants and then the other school in the valley as well. So that certainly makes
Talking
sense.
about Lincoln School, if I may, I have a wonderful memory of the teachers under the direction of Mr. Zavachandy, who I'm still constantly in contact with, playing softball or baseball against the teachers at Lincoln School who thought they were a shoo-in. We beat the pants off them.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. And speaking of that, I mean, when we came back to US and we started studying here, one of the ways in which we wanted to contribute and give back to the school, and the alumni here got together, and we actually took softball gloves and bats and things like that, the genuine leather ones from here, and we continue to donate to the physical education department in BNKS. And just I think last month or something, I ran into a fellow. I said, hey, and he said, hey, we played, we used the gloves that you guys donated. It was very nice that they were still mentioning that. But we really appreciate Mr. Chandi's bringing and taking that department to the next level. I think when he introduced softball and hockey and all other kinds of metrics and sports, that was fascinating time for it. We really were in the golden era of Budhanilkantha School among you guys. So speaking of the Australian expat communities, were there other fellows like you who were like into teaching or into business or something from Australia who were volunteering in Nepal, or were you just one lone star who was just doing everything?
Oh no, there were other Australians, and I used to meet quite a lot of Australians at the Anzac Day services, which they always held at the 25th of April, which is another day, at the Australian Embassy. And there were missionaries, Australian missionaries, and they were more involved with health, I think, yes. And there was a volunteer organisation that brought teachers here, or brought people here to teach for a short time, according to the visa restraints and whatever. But there was a very big Australian expat community in Nepal, spread all over Nepal, not just in Kathmandu, particularly at not Bhaktapur, big hospital, big Seventh-day Adventist hospital.
Yeah, Adventist hospital where Seva used to work.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Adventist hospital up in North, I think.
Banipa.
It was in
Banipa.
Yeah.
Banipa, yes, yes.
Right.
And when my last time in Nepal, until 2016, I lived in a flat with owned by a wonderful family who looked after me so well, but that's another story. And their daughter was training at that hospital. She trained as a doctor, so the connection was still there, you know, a big. And I know Australian groups like Rotary and Lions came to Nepal frequently, had connections. They did things like built bridges and built toilets in villages and whatever. So there's always been quite a big connection, Australian connection in Nepal.
Yeah. So one of the things that we wondered as a student, or even like looking back, like we thought that, hey, like the British teachers, the Australian teachers coming all the way from there. How was the remuneration? How were you guys paid? Was that enough for you to sustain, or you just live just like a Nepali? Because I know, at least for the Britishers, they had their pension system or whatever. Like Mr. Tyson would, again, whatever the taxes he would pay to the UK government, and during his old age, you would have probably. Was that the same for the Australians as well? How did you work that out for your retirement?
No, I was a local hire, and so I was paid like a Nepali teacher. But of course, I lived on site, and I had a very good life, actually, a very good life when I was able to move on to the campus. Had I been under a contract like the British teachers, it would have been different. But I never resented that. I was a local hire. That's, yeah, and I did actually, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. But of course, it did not do anything for my retirement, my eventual retirement. And that's the reason that I went to places like the Middle East.
Yeah.
Whatever, because I was under contract there, a different thing. That doesn't mean I had any problem with, and I came back to Nepal twice more, and but it's certainly, because being a local hire, you know, it was not like being on a contract. Yeah.
Right. So what finally prompted you to leave Budhanilkantha School? Was it some major disagreements, or was it think you've contributed enough, or what was it? You said this is it.
No,
This is yeah.
I'd been away from home for a very, very long time. I'd been a tour guide in Europe and teacher in England, and then 3 years in Bhutan. And I felt like I wanted to go back home, and that there was something calling me back. Well, we suffered a very bad family tragedy not long after I went back. So I was very glad to be back there. No, it was just, I felt it was time to go home. But as you know, I came back. I didn't go back to Budhanilkantha School. I don't think that's a good idea. But I certainly maintained contact with Budhanilkantha. There was never any reason not to.
Right.
I was asked to judge competitions, and I saw a lot of the teachers, and I kept in touch with quite a few of the students because they were in Kathmandu. And no, it was just, sometimes you feel it's time to move on.
Yeah. So when we as students look back at the school setting and things like that, the closest knit community was always the English department teachers. What was the recipe for that? How did you guys manage to pull that off?
Oh, because we're all such wonderful people. No, it's just we gelled so well together. Nepali, English, Australian. We got on so well together, and the two heads of English under whom I work, Robert Shrubsall and Martin, were marvelous men, and we had the way they arranged the classes, and we were always there to help each other. And the classes were so well arranged. We had it was a grading system to a certain extent, but and there was always someone to help if you needed help. And teaching, I spent a lot of time with Dr. Tej Kansika because we taught O and A level together. In fact, we even sang together quite a lot in gatherings in Gauri-Shankar. But I think just the personalities just gelled, and the fact that they took, well, I know they had a lot of time for Robert, the Nepali teachers had a lot of time for Robert and for Martin, but they took me to their hearts. I was one of them. They used to dress me in saris for special occasions. So I walked around with several safety pins because, like a true Australian, I lurched rather than walked. So I had to practice sari steps, which wasn't always easy for me, but I've got some wonderful photos of me in a sari. It's just that they took me to their hearts.
So if you were to name a couple of your own contributions to BNKS, like what would they be? Like one of the example last month when you're talking to Mr. Wilson, he said the bread that the BNKS students eat now, the bread that they make inside the school, he recommended to Mr. Tashan that we have our own bakery. We make our own bread inside the school. He said, "Hey, that is my contribution." He was saying that. So I wanted to understand from your perspective, what are some of the contributions that you feel you made to the school?
Well, definitely teaching students, and teaching so many students and the teachers to swim, making maximum use of that wonderful facility, and seeing, the standard to which they the standard that they got to, both the students. Teaching the teachers was hilarious, and but they were so determined to learn. I remember Mr. Kansakar with several floaty boards under his arms, and I gave the late Mrs. Rana, I gave her a certificate for being able to swim across the pool, and for coming second in a race. And her daughter spoiled it all by asking how many in the race. Well, there are only 2, but I think that was a major contribution, and to the other sports, because Mr. Chandis and I got on very well, and I used to be a sports teacher. It was part of, I was a sports teacher as well. So we had a lot of fun with the sport. But then, of course, the drama, being head of drama, and keeping up that, well, making a standard, and also that's when I started to open up, asking other people to come and see the performances, because they were excellent. They were absolutely excellent. And of course, Simon, now I'm trying to think of Simon's last name. He was head of Makalu, and he and I wrote an opera sort of thing, a musical for the junior houses when we put them together. And it took us a long time, and we had songs and dances and whatever, and every boy in the 2 junior houses was involved. And we performed for their majesties, of course, their late majesties. So I feel I have made a contribution both in the pool and the drama, as well as my students did well in O and A levels.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that. Yeah, absolutely. Long list of contributions. I mean, of course, as a teacher, you always hope, I think they always say the biggest contribution was making difference in our lives, and absolutely certainly true for all the teachers like yourself. So so what was the relationship like between the teachers and the administrative staff? How was that in the school?
I always got along well with the administrative staff. There was a lovely young woman there whose name I can't remember. And the librarian, I remember going to the librarian's wedding. When she married one of the British
Mr. McCausland.
Yes, and yes, we at that time, of course, there was one telephone, a radio telephone. That's all we had. So we had to be mindful of the fact that, that was our only way of communicating. I can't remember, someone called me from Australia, and I was talking on the phone, and the next thing I was talking to the pilot of an RNAC flight coming into land at Kathmandu. Those were the days.
So I see Mr. Vaidesar turn his camera on. So I would like to request anybody who has a question or wants some clarification, please, again, unmute yourself and just feel free. The floor is open for all. I have one of my brothers, Sunil Tamrakar, who was the head boy in school, also on the call. So thank you for joining. Hemendra Dai as well. And Mrs. Hira Gurung, again, please feel free to turn your video on, unmute yourself. And if you have some questions that you wanted to ask Glenn, again, please feel free to do so.
Kiran, I would like to request Glenn, when did she join the school? Which year?
Early, I think it was early, oh God, 1987.
Okay. We must be
I'd
correct.
been at St. Xavier's before that, yeah. From when I came from,
For how many years?
I was there for
Roughly.
5 years.
5 years. So 87 plus 5 is 92.
Oh, no, end of 91.
91. Okay. So where I'm so your contribution in the school, mostly in the drum, is well appreciated, as we learned from that conversation. In staging the dramas, school dramas, English dramas, play, I mean.
Yeah. But
Sorry, what did you say? I missed the question.
No, I mean, besides teaching English, your contribution in the, say, in organizing the play was well appreciated by the people.
Oh, thank
Is
you.
that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I think so. I think the students enjoyed it, and what I did was give them opportunities in like one-act plays, singing in English competitions, and a major production, like major productions, and once a year. And I think the main thing was of giving them the opportunity to perform and the students were perfectionists. They wouldn't have been at Budhanilkantha if they weren't. So they always gave their very best in performances. But then I feel that the contribution to teaching people to swim was a big one as well. You know, many Nepalis drown because they can't swim. They drown in Australia because they can't swim, because they live out in the west, far west. And I've taught kids here in Australia as well. I just think teaching someone to swim is a life-giving skill. You know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn. Kiran, one question to you.
Sure.
I've been requesting you to keep in touch, if it's possible, with the first 4 batch students. Like for first 100 A batch, right? 100 A batch, 200 A batch, 300 A batch, 400 A batch. The reason have been asking, the school principal has given me assignment to find out the names, roll number, batch, and their photographs, if possible, from the students, so that the school can update it. And the past 4 years record is a bit messy, I guess. It is not. So I've sent a mail to you. I've just texted a mail to you. Please check it. And also please ask the student who has been helping you now. So please do it as well as possible. There is also the email address of Shobana, who is working with me.
Yeah.
Please do it as far as possible. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for that public service announcement. So I will take action on that. And I think just to correct what Mrs. Tulip said, at least Ms. Tulip, according to the CV that you said, you started BNKS in 1986 to 1991.
1986, 19, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1986, 1991. I just have a question for Hiragurung ma'am. Hiragurung ma'am, I know you've been a frequent participant on this call, so thank you for joining again. Do you have any question for Glenn? You might be on mute. I still see her there. She might be on mute out there.
She's muted.
Yeah, she's muted. Hopefully, yeah, I hear her now. So,
hello. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I had to turn off the video. I was doing busy with this little chore at home. Yeah.
I know you guys were colleagues and everything. We just wanted you to share your perspective of Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, we have been wonderful friends, and Glenn would come over to my place. I don't know if Glenn remembers, for meals.
I do.
And yeah, and she was eating with the with the hand. And my helpers, they couldn't help laughing in the kitchen, they were seeing you eating with your hands. So, I mean, they were also very happy to see that. And my children were small, I think you remember all that. And visiting Vidya Thapalia. So those are wonderful memories. And of course, in the department, as Glenn said, we really gelled well. We used to have lots of parties together, lots of, what do you call that? Potluck lunches.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course during the play time, the drama time, things sometimes got a little tensed. I remember, right, Glenn? And Glenn would be the most tensed person, and we would be very careful speaking to her at that time. But afterwards, it was all worth it, because I know Glenn is also a perfectionist, and the dramas were really wonderful. So I think those were really wonderful days, Glenn, and we really miss you. Just wondering when you're coming to Nepal.
Here, I forgot to mention, and it really was an oversight with the dramas, and you're quite right. I couldn't have done it without the help and support of the other English teachers. I remember sitting with Shushil Shahi and Kalpana and you in my flat, sewing hats for a particular performance. I was doing it myself, and then you all turned up at my door. And we sat there for hours and sewed these costumes. And you're quite right, I could get quite tense, but it was always worth it in the end. And thanks to you. And it's, I've been back to Nepal twice, as you know. I think I came back once just as a tourist, and then I brought a group just over 3 years ago. I brought a group of ladies from my walking group here, and we trekked and rafted and went to the jungle and things like that. And since I left in oh God, when was it? 2016, yes, since I left in 2016. But the other two times I was back here, I did maintain relations with you all. I think maybe the last time I saw you, sadly, was at Mrs. Budhanilkantha's funeral. And yeah, but I do keep in contact on Facebook, and I see what D1 is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, the next time you're here, we definitely should meet up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Yep. One person that has not been in social media is Andrew Wild. Have you been in touch with Andrew at all?
I've tried very hard, but I believe he's still in Africa, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I've tried a couple of times to find him, but to no avail.
Yeah, I know. I spoke with him, I would say back in 2016 or 17. At that time, I called the school, and interestingly, they picked up the phone. He was at that time in UK for vacation, and then he came down, and then I tried again. They answered, and we spoke briefly at that time. So he's still in Malawi. I think he ended up becoming a principal for that school in Malawi. It is almost a replica of Budhanilkantha in Africa. I mean, the school where he's teaching, and I could see why he's been there for so long. But yeah, Andrew is still there, and I believe you are still in contact with Mr. Strupsel. I was wondering where Mr. Martin is these days.
Oh, they're in the UK.
Okay.
They are retired, and the children, their 3 children I knew as children are now grown up, married, have their own children. And the last time I spoke to Martin was when he published the book about the lynx, the animal, the lynx.
Okay.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, if you do get in touch with him again, just send him all the love from the student. Yeah, to Mr. Martin as well. I know Mr. Strupsel is in Laos or somewhere, right? Cambodia?
Yes.
Laos or Cambodia? Yeah, one of those.
Cambodia, perhaps. And I see regular posts from him on Facebook, which I react to, you know, and he and I were great friends.
Yep.
And I remember he used to often, because back in those days, we had frequent electricity blackouts, you know.
Yep.
And he'd come over and have a cup of tea with me as we sat through yet another blackout, you know, because we couldn't do anything else, you know. And,
So
yes.
one of the funny things that I want to remind you was the swimming you mentioned, because as you know, those who failed had to wear red trunk.
God, that wasn't my rule.
Yeah, and those who passed were given blue trunk.
Yeah.
So we were like, who passed and who failed. So recently, just last month, I was at Diwas, my classmates 232 Diwas's house. He built a swimming pool in his backyard in North Carolina. And when I went to the pool, he just said, "I just making sure you had the blue one."
Well, this is what amazed me when I met up with a couple of students, Sajan and someone else in Melbourne, that the memories of Budhanilkantha are so strong. You know, they're still there. Like, I knew they were strong with me because of the impact it had on me. And but the students also, I mean, yes, it's amazing. He posted a photo and said, remembering golden days. And I'm thinking, yes, they were golden days for all of us. Even if some of the students didn't think it was at the time, but I think they realized afterwards what a wonderful education they got at. What an amazing education they got at Budhanilkantha School. Not just reading, writing, arithmetic, but in all aspects of relationships and community service, creativity.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because when I first came into the United States, I mean, with the exception of only few things, I didn't have a culture shock at all, because I knew all kinds of sports that they played. I knew the rules, everything. It was so easy to get into the mix of things. So I think that really played a very important. The BNKS education really played a very important role in order for us to be successful later on in life, because it was so well-rounded education. Not only from the sports perspective, but you look at teachers like Vaideshwar, who encouraged us to do community service and volunteers, and we were out there cleaning things in Pashupati, or we were either doing as a scout or one thing or the other. And we're so involved. I'm hiking. When you think about that, I mean, we would go hiking. Like Mr. Pugh, I remember Mr. Pugh taking us Mr. Pugh, he would take us every Saturday, like as soon as the breakfast ended, like we would start hiking either to Gumba or either to down in Kathmandu or something, or Shivapuri. So I think that, and the fact that we were allowed even to go camping, and we still do that. I mean, even till this, this is so nice out there.
Rastra is wanting, he's got his hand up. I think he wants to ask me a question. Talking about camping, I have a very vivid memory of Rastra and camping.
All right.
We're out at Shivapuri, I think. Yes. But I remember going camping with Rastra's batch, you know. And Rastra, you got a question?
Go ahead.
You're muted.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think I have unmuted myself. I'm very happy to be over here. Actually, I wanted to join other sessions as well, but unfortunately I couldn't. So nice to be here with Tulip ma'am, Hirabu ma'am, Vaideshwar, and all other sessions as well. Actually, I want to take it into a little lighter note, and we do really into one incident that I do really want to share with Glen Tulip ma'am, because I think we in our batch also sometimes talk about that particular incident. It is about the camping that we went to. I think Godavari. I think Kiran do remember. Kiran do remember that one. And I think I was as a teenager, not a teenager, I should say. So it was very kind of an embarrassing moment for me as well. But there are a few things, and I think some of the teachers would remember that I was suspended for 2 weeks. I don't know if all the teachers remember or not. And I was actually stripped of my deputy house captain as well because of that particular suspension. But when I look back, I think there were so many things that I learned from the activities and all the other things apart from the academics that went in Budhanilkantha. And my major thought process is that it was because of the teachers and their attitude and all the things. So actually, I wanted to link that incident with Godavari camping and even my suspension in class 10 to a thought process that the teachers over there were always actually motivated towards accepting the students as they were and trying to move them forward towards excellence, accepting their behavior, their attitude, their diversity. So if it was very much possible that I could have been kicked out from the school in both of the incident, and there would not be anything which would have stopped the decision that may have that could have come up. And at this particular moment, I'm working as academician, I should say, working as a teacher, myself looking into all these young adults and teenagers being A-level and +2 level. And I think I have got these lessons from BNKS, and that actually has helped me to move with the same philosophy, accepting these young students as they are and trying to be very much open to them and trying to accept them as they are, and just to move forward with the saying that why should anyone be spoiled because of some small incident that may have happened because of just being a kid or something like that. So I just wanted to express that particular, I wanted to thank Glen ma'am for that particular, just taking that incident as if it was nothing but just a stupid kid doing those things. And actually, those are the things that I learned. I don't have any question, but I just wanted to express these things. Thank you. Thank you, Kiran, for this opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rastra. I've got very, very fond memories of you. And I also remember after that incident, we're talking about Mr. Wild saying to you, we only want you to be the man we know you are.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then Hemendra Dai, you hands up, so go ahead, Hemendra Dai. If you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Hemendra Bora Dai, can you hear us? Yeah, maybe.
Muted, Hemendra.
I'm sure he's gonna.
Okay,
yeah.
just fine. All right. Yeah, just wanted to say hi to everyone and thank Miss Tulip and the program organizers. And I about swimming. It was our final year, I think A2, and Miss Tulip would let us, go swimming during our English classes because that was the year the swimming pool had opened and it was winter, and that was our only chance to use the swimming pool. So thank you very much. And also talking about drama, I wanted to share that, we're trying to revive the drama program in Budhanilkantha right now. I'm in the school management committee as SEBS president. So we are trying to revive many, old programs. For example, camping that has been pretty much non-existent right now. Hiking, camping, mainly outdoor activities, and drama, and also we are trying to start a school newspaper. So I just wanted to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for sharing that. Tilak, I see your hand raised. Tilak Y7005D.
Thank you so much, Kiran. It's really great to hear your conversations. I really like the conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I'm the youngest one here. I just wanted to ask Ms. Glen, what was one of your worst incident with student and teachers? And I just wanted to ask, what is your message to young SEBS or Budhanilkantha School students, so that other people also could listen to it, I just wanted to ask what message you want to give to young Budhanilkantha School students.
Oh, just keep on doing what you're doing, being who you are. And it's so good to hear that these programs are being revived, because I think they were so much part of the fabric of the school and what molded the students, as Rastra said. We had a few tense moments. I'm trying to remember. Something happened. I think it might have been after the revolution, and some of the younger boys wanted, for some reason, they weren't happy with Gauri Shankar. But it passed over very quickly, and that's about the only thing I could ever remember. Right. It was, the time of the revolution, it was very tense, and of course it impacted the students, but it passed over. The teachers were very understanding about what was motivating the students, and as Rastra said, but generally, I have nothing but wonderful memories, and I hope that the students do as well. Obviously, Rastra has good memories and memories of things that shaped the person he is, and I'm sure most of the students have memories of things that shaped the way they are now. It certainly is. It shaped my teaching career. As I said, it was the standard. The Budhanilkantha model was the standard against which I judged all other schools. And the only one that ever came close was the school, didn't reach it, was the school in Yemen, where I was the head of English, run by a wonderful man who had a Yemeni father and an English mother. So he spoke like a Sheffield steel worker and looked like an Arab prince, a marvelous man to work for, and who was so appreciative of the way he said, "Where did you learn this?" And I said, "Budhanilkantha School. This is where I learned to do things this way." Because he had said to all of the teachers, if you've got a problem, come to me, but come with a solution. And as far as I know, I was one of the few people that did that. I went to him with a solution rather than just a problem. Therefore, I got everything I ever wanted. In terms of resources. I don't mean at the expense of other departments, but as I said, just follow the Budhanilkantha model.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question, and thank you for your response, Ms. Tulip. So one last question from me. So this is, so looking back overall, yeah, you're wearing your Oracle hat and out there. What do you feel? What do you feel was the impact of Budhanilkantha School? What do you feel was, from your opinion, the impact of Budhanilkantha School in your own words? It could be to the nation, to the student, to the academic world. How do you define what was the concept of Budhanilkantha, like bringing all these students from the back then 75 districts together, all walks of life, putting into a melting pot, and just like how the America is considered the melting pot of diversity and things like that. What do you feel was the experiment like? What is the impact of that greater?
You only have to look at what's happening in Nepal today and what things I've been seeing on Facebook and on the website. The number of ex-Budhanilkantha students who are now in positions of real power where they can shape the nation and have been able to shape the nation. So I think the impact of Budhanilkantha School is very far-reaching, not only in Nepal, but in other countries. And what ex-Budhanilkantha students are doing in other countries, the contributions they're making. I know they are making contributions in Australia, but also not only they're making contributions in Australia, but they're Nepalis. So money and support is going back to Nepal as well, which I think is a wonderful thing, absolutely wonderful thing. And I think those students have made life better, not only on the national level, but they have made life better for their families, because I know some of them came from very remote villages. I remember reading a poem written by, I can't remember what, he was in grade 4 when I started at Budhanilkantha. And he wrote this wonderful poem about seeing a vehicle for the first time, because he walked from his village to the roadhead so he could get the bus to Budhanilkantha. And he couldn't believe that an animal that made so much noise could have such a hot nose, because he touched the bonnet of the vehicle. The way he expressed it, I'll never forget that. The first time this boy, I think he must have been 10 or 11 years old, the first time he'd seen a vehicle. So, yeah, the impact has been on a personal level to the families and villages, but then on a national level and even on an international level. Look at you, Kieran. Look at Sujat and people all over the world, Budhanilkantha students who are making a contribution wherever they are. Yeah. That's the impact. I can't think of any other school or the ex-students of any other school I've ever known of having that sort of impact.
Thank you, Ms. Tulip. It was a wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed as much as we did as well.
Oh, I did.
And then I hope you'll have a long and prosperous and healthy life. And I know when the alumni get together, we'll be sure to reach out to you, meet you, and invite you. And if I come to Australia, I'll make a point to be in touch with you as well. Continue. Just keep us posted on how things are. And
certainly will.
Hear from you. Thank you so much. Any other question? Any other last minute or by the ways from anyone before we leave? All right. I want to thank the host. Yeah, I want to thank the host, Kaushal Bhai. I want to thank the president of SEBS North America, as well as Hemant Dai and Baidi sir, and madam here as a Hira ma'am, Sunil Dai and Tilak Bhai, everybody. Thank you so much. 4068B Abal as well. Again, we'll be in touch. The guest speaker for next month is going to be Miss Manju Nirola. She was one of the first person who was in the Nepali department for the first few 100A all the way to what batches. A lot of the current teachers may not know, but she's here in Maryland, so I'm fortunate to be in touch with her. So she will be our guest speaker for the month of July. So looking forward to that as well. Thank you again. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Good. Take care.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.